getting that heel all the way to that foot. So we've increased the range of motion of that knee quite a bit. Hey guys, what's going on? Today we're going to go over how we can increase some range of motion for our affected body parts before we go through our rehab exercises or corrective exercises, what we're trying to accomplish, okay? So the big thing here is we want to increase the range of motion because we're basically using the exercises as a way to hit the save button on any progress we're making, right? So, you know, we're not increasing range of motion and it's like a permanent thing for what we're trying to do, but we're just trying to create a transient change in range of motion so that that opens that window for us to now work into these range of motions with load so that we can make permanent changes over time, okay? So let's take a look at that here. So one protocol that I like to use is starting with some PNF stretching of the affected area. So Dylan, our patient here, he's been having some tight quads, and so we want to increase the range of motion of his knee flexion and then work into some exercises that are going to use that full depth of knee flexion. Okay, so first thing I want to do is some PNF stretching of the quads, followed by some floss band wrapping of the knee, working some range of motion passively on that, okay? So I'm going to have Dylan bend his knee here, and we're just going to check what his baseline is. So like right about there, you know, he starts getting pretty tight, and I'm sure that's feeling a little tight for you there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to hold this here for about 15-20 seconds. Okay, so we'll assume that we've been holding it now. And what I'm going to have Dylan do is now match my resistance. So I'm going to push against his quad, and he's just going to match the amount that I'm pushing, right? So I don't want him pushing like 100%, trying to overpower me. I just want him matching my resistance. And what that's going to do is activate, you know, the quads to contract, and then now I'm going to have him relax. Good. And when he relaxes, that's going to let me take it just a little bit further, right? So what we're doing is we're kind of tricking the nervous system into relaxing further past its original baseline by contracting and then now relaxing, and it's actually going to relax a little more than it originally had been. And so once we've been holding this new position now for another 20 or 30 seconds, I'm going to have Dylan contract again and push against me. Good, and we're just matching each other's resistance, right? And now we're creating muscle contraction at the new range of motion that we just created. And relax. And when he relaxes, I can now take it a little bit further. Good. We're going to hold this again. And then after another 20 or 30 seconds, I'm going to say, okay, Dylan, now resist. And now I'm pushing again, and he's matching my resistance. About 5 seconds, and relax. And when he relaxes, I just slowly let it fall into a little more knee flexion. Look, and now you can see we are already well past what his original set point of tension was, you know, in that quad. And then we're going to relax. Okay, and so we'll do, we'll let him rest for a second. We'll do another set of that, right? Hopefully try to get a little bit further. So we're going to do that right now.
And look, our new set point is already much past what it was on that first set. So go ahead and push. And relax. And push. And relax. And push. And relax.
Good. And so now we've created a lot more range of motion just transiently there and able to take him past his original set point. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap the knee with the Voodoo floss band, and then we're going to also work some passive range of motion there, and then we're going to see where we can get to with that, okay? So now we're going to wrap the floss band around his knee and work some passive range of motion for a set with the floss band on, and then some passive range of motion for a set with the floss band off. So I'm just going to bring his leg out to the side here, start wrapping. You want to make sure you start close enough down to the knee that we're getting down past the kneecap here. So I'll start like, a couple inches above the patella and just start wrapping. You want to wrap it pretty tight, right? Not so much that his foot's turning blue, but tight enough that it's going to create a nice restriction in his range of motion as we work through it. that's nice and tight now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to work some passive knee flexion. Cranking that. And you should feel quite a bit of resistance getting into the deep flexion here. It's not necessarily comfortable, but it is effective.
I'm going to usually do about 8 to 10 reps of this.
Good. Now we'll take the band off. You don't really want to ever leave it on for more than, a minute or two because we are restricting blood flow. Alright, and so now we're going to come back here and we're going to do just some passive flexion without the floss band on and trying to take that now as far as we can. And see, now look at that, we're getting that heel all the way to that foot. So we've increased the range of motion of that knee quite a bit, right? And as I said, this isn't going to be like, oh, this is just his new range of motion now, right? This is a very transient effect, but it's opening that window of now we have a little bit of time to work with this new range of motion that we're creating. Good. All right, so now we've increased that range of motion, and we always want to follow, any of this passive modality stuff we're doing up with exercises that are going to utilize this new range of motion. Okay. And so now we want to follow this up with some exercises that are going to utilize this new range of motion. So we're going to have Dylan do some kettlebell front squat here, or dumbbell front squat with the weight, and we'll have him do a set of 8 to 10 here. And really getting deep into that knee flexion, right? Getting those hips down. And as I said, this is kind of hitting the save button on this new range of motion, right? So following up any of these transient increases with exercise is now going to load and train these muscles and joints at these, new ranges of motion to create lasting effects and functional stability into these deeper range of motion. So as you guys saw, it's a pretty effective protocol to help increase some range of motion. I think it's really good use for post-surgical applications when people are trying to regain range of motion, and we're not loading super heavy, and we can load light afterwards. And especially like when we're saying we want to hit the save button on those changes, that's especially important for post-surgical. But then even for people that are just dealing with some joint restrictions and stuff like that, or people who are detrained, just making sure that we can get these new ranges of motion, because you always want to increase mobility before we really start loading too much, because we want to make sure that we're utilizing our full range of motion before we're putting them in positions that they could potentially get hurt in, something like that. So increasing that range of motion is huge, and then loading it and making sure we kind of save those changes and load the joints and muscles in these new ranges of motion. So if you guys know anybody that's dealing with some joint pain or really tight or anything like that, send them our way. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe or give it a like, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.